Hello, we are live, and I welcome you to the lunch table here at lunchtime with Leona. I'm Leona Dooley, and today we are going to talk about our October meal plan, which is going to be an awful lot of fun. And I am so excited to get started. I don't know what it is about the beginning, getting ready for the beginning of each month. It just gets me kind of hyped. I think because of the fact that it's another new beginning, if we look at it that way, because we always have to have a beginning point and a stopping point, because I think that helps us, our minds, recognize the fact that a month isn't that long and we can certainly get it done. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, while I'm going to go through a few little housekeeping chores, I'm hoping that you will take the time in the description box, as well as not the description box, but in the comment box and the chat box, that you will tell me, what do you think the top three benefits of meal planning are? What are they? What are the top three benefits to meal planning? And if you will just kind of type those in, list those in, and we'll see if your ideas and my ideas are all on the same page. Now, as I said, I'm Leona Dooley, and I welcome all of you to the lunch table. I'm so glad that you're joining me today here. Those of us who have gathered at the lunch table are like minds who love to cook. We love to decorate sometimes, and we love to chat. But most of all, we love our families, and we certainly want to take the time to just make our family happy right here around the table. And we do it in the kitchen. That's the fun part. Now, we're kicking up our home cooking game, guys, because today, not only do we understand the fact that our family is important, but we also want to feel that inner strength when we're able to have our kitchen just the way we'd like for it to be most of the time. And we want everyone who comes into our kitchen to feel happy, to feel welcome, to know that you're thinking about them and that you love them. We want them to sit down, have a seat, and just enjoy the conversation. We also want them to get a hug before they leave. Now, so I invite those of you who are new, I invite you to the family. Please be sure to subscribe, and be sure before you leave today to give me a thumbs up, hit that share button, and if you're not a part of the family, subscribe. Take that time to do that, because all of us who are here, some are those who have been along on the journey for a while. And I certainly appreciate every step that we've taken together. But you know what? There are more people out there who need to get the message. And so we're going to try to do that together as a family. And we're doing it right here in the kitchen. We're doing it for the kitchen. And most of all, we're doing it for our family. So let's get to it. Now, we're going to talk about planning today. Hello, hello, hello to everyone who is in the chat box today. I know I'm looking at some of you, some of your answers. I asked you to put in what you think some of the benefits of planning are. So I'm going to slip in, and I'm going to go back and look and see. Let's see. Well, Denise says that planning, of course, saves money, and it saves time in planning, and that you have less waste. Oh my goodness. Were you here looking over my shoulder when I was putting this together? Because you have certainly hit a lot of those notes that we're going to talk about today. Let's see what Ronnie's saying here. Ronnie says that it saves her time, it saves her money, and is hassle-free. I agree, Ronnie, with all of those points, all of those points. Uh, I'm looking at some of your comments, and we always want to be able to talk with each other. This is a place where we can bring it together. And the good thing about planning is that we're prepared for the next meal. You are absolutely right. Uh, I don't want to mess up your name, Sharontek. Sharontek, I think might be it. And if I'm wrong, please forgive me. Please forgive me. Now, this is Susan said this is normally not a good time for her, but she's glad. Yay, Susan, that you could be here today. I am just so glad to have all of you here, and stay as long as you can. If you kind of have to jump off because you might be at work, then that's okay. I understand. Come back and check out what we're going to talk about today, because we got quite a bit. Now, first of all, so let me get started because we don't want to waste any time. One of the things we've already said, and everyone agreed with the fact that planning your meals, planning your meals. We plan our life, we plan our schedules, we plan what we do. So why not plan our meals? Now, for some, planning the meal just kind of seems like it's a daunting task, but it really isn't. So, planning your meals, and we try to do it ahead of time, comes with some benefits. Let me talk about those benefits. Now, answer this. For you guys who are here and you're listening and you're a part of this discussion, how far in advance do you normally plan your meal? How far? Sometimes I do it a week in advance. Now, I have a list. I have a 30-day list of meal ideas. And what I will typically do is to pull out that list. Here's 30 days for October ready to go, that I have already put together. They're ready. I'm going to be sharing all of those with you. But it gives me a chance. If I take a week in advance, then I can check off those things I want to do for the upcoming week. It gives me a chance to develop my grocery list. And I can also look at how I can work some meals and some proteins maybe more than once. And so all of that is going to help us in saving money, saving time, and certainly we don't want to waste a thing. Now, so how far in advance do you normally plan? Let's see. Dawn says she plans a month of meals. Woo, 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 woo. Girl, we on the same plane. I love it. Now, Denise said that sometimes a week in advance, and sometimes she plans in the morning for the evening. I understand. I understand. Sometimes it's really based on what is going on at that time in your life. And there are things about life we just can't get in, we can't change. And so we have to be able to work around them. That's why we have a plan. Now, Susan says she plans her meals weekly, and she says she'll go through the pantry. She makes a list of ideas every month or so that she can work that pantry. That's what you're doing. You're going to work your pantry. Emma says that she also plans a month at a time. I love it. And I'm sure before we all leave that we're going to realize that that is probably the way we want to do. Now, when we talk about planning, that does not mean that you have to look at the calendar. You say on the first, we're going to have this. You see how I said that? We're going to have this. No, it says that I have 30 days of ideas that I can develop and use throughout the month. That's what the 30-day plan is all about. Now, answer this for me. How do you think, or do you think of your meal plan as a guide or as a suggestion? Tell me about that. Do you think about your meal plan as a guide or as a suggestion of things you might do? Now, I'm going to come back. Let's see. Susan says that tonight's supper is based on some items that she wanted to use from the freezer, and she was inspired by YouTube home cook. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what we do. That's what we do. If you know you have something in your freezer that needs to be used, and certainly we have to keep up with those expiration dates as we put things into the freezer. So that gives us a chance that those things that have been in the freezer longer, in the refrigerator longer, we're going to move them to the front. And we're going to try to make sure that we use those quickly. Denise is saying that if you plan for a month at a time, do you pull all those meals in, put all those meals into the kitchen freezer, or do you shop the freezer weekly and then pull? Now, I can answer for me, and that's a great question, Denise. For me, what I normally do, because, well, I'll say during COVID, I shopped for the month. I made sure that everything I needed for the month was in the freezer. It was a big shop. And the only thing I really went back and to the grocery for would be like lettuce, tomatoes, something fresh, apples, whatever that might be. But the major portion, those main things that I knew I would need for dinner are for lunch, because a lot of us have to fix lunch because we're going out. Then, in those particular cases, I tried to make sure I already had it either in the freezer, in the refrigerator, ready to go. And so that is certainly a good question. And so what I do on Fridays, usually Fridays or Saturday morning, well, you know where I am on Saturday morning. But when I'm setting up after the show on Saturday morning, that's when I look at what I have planned for the following week and say I need a steak or some steaks, whichever the case may be, or I need fish. Now, fish, I know I can pull out the day before. It will be thawed and ready to go. But there are certain items, it takes a while to thaw a whole chicken. So I know I need to pull that out, especially if I'm going to use it at the beginning of the week. So I typically pull out for about 3 days, and 3 days in advance, put it into the refrigerator. So whatever needs to thaw is already thawed out. So that's about, that gives you a chance to really plan and to think 3 days in advance, even though you got your list ready to go. Now, I like this. Emma says that her meal plan is really quite rigid. She said she normally cooks what it says for each day. She only changes it when she has more leftovers than she thought, or something happens and she just doesn't have enough time. Well, Emma, to be honest with you, I didn't want to encourage everyone to be rigid, because I really am. I'm a little bit rigid. If I tend to be that person, if I have it on paper, it's going to happen that day. And it happens because I'm thinking, I pulled it out, I took it out, I got to do it that day. I don't know what that is. That's just something, in here. And I typically do that. Dawn says she uses hers as a guide, planning her meals by shopping her shelves and her freezer. She pulls the meats out of the freezer the night before. And certainly, all of those are certainly good steps to take, good ideas and plans for what you're doing. And ultimately, I believe, just looking at the responses that we're getting, that most of you in the chat box are probably experienced home cooks, and you're used to setting up some type of plan, regardless of what it is. You are used to setting up your own plan for your week. And so our young home cooks, I think this is great because our younger home cooks, I can think back as a first time homemaker and home cook, I didn't have a plan. And I was trying anybody and everybody's plan until I finally found the one that I could just go, that works for me. And I think most of us are pretty much like that, where we try, it's a trial and error until we find the method that works for us. Now, if you are one of those folks, those new homemakers, or younger homemakers and home cooks that have never meal planned before, and you know what? There are some more mature homemakers who have never meal planned before. And it's I don't know how they survived, but they didn't. And I do know that because I've gotten some responses from them. I'm going to say for you, and they're trying to make some changes, and let me tell you, we have some people who are in the world who, hey, we have some people in the world who are newlyweds. Now, they may be later in life and age, but they're newlyweds and they may have married after the age of 50. And so prior to that, they didn't have to worry about all the meal planning and whatever because they were just living life. And so now all of a sudden, they have to stop and really think about what they have planned to do. Now, my suggestion for them, we're going to take a look at some tips. It's always fun to have tips. And let's see if I can get going. There's our lunchtime. And my suggestion is I lost my spot, is that first of all, we want to make a master list of all of the meals that you and your family love. That's a good place to start. Have your notebook, have your, just jot down as you're preparing different meals along the way. It doesn't have to be fancy. It's usually in pencil or pen or whatever you might have in hand. But you want to have some type of master list of your meals. Now, if you're a young homemaker and a young home cook, and you only have, say, 5 meals that you normally do, hey, good. Hello, Tay Tay. Now, if you only have 5 meals that you can cook well, start your master list with those 5 meals. If it's only 2, put them in the book. There is just something about writing it down because that makes it special. And besides, as a young home cook, young homemaker, we are starting small. Now, then we're going to look at putting our grocery list together. Now, some things that we have to think about as we're thinking about our grocery list is that we can't forget that we might put it on the grocery list, the piece of paper. And like here, I've got my grocery list, and I'll show you that in a little while. But that's coming up for the month. Now, shop your pantry, shop your refrigerator, and shop your freezers first. Now, when I say freezer, understand this. The freezer does not have to be gigantic. It doesn't have to be a gigantic freezer. It doesn't have to be an additional freezer. Because for those who are new to the kitchen, new to homemaking, new to being a home cook, probably the only freezer they have at this point is the one that you can see right there at their refrigerator. I went for quite a few years before I had a freestanding freezer. And, that was one of those things that when I got it, I was so excited. And all I could think of was, what am I going to put into it? And so I had a lot of stuff in that freezer, I'm telling you. Now, as you're planning your grocery list and you're shopping your pantry, your refrigerator, your freezer, all of that first, let me ask you this question. Are you also thinking about how you are able to vary the things that accompany whatever protein you may decide to have? Now, the protein can be, of course, some type of meat, chicken, poultry, fish. It can be a non meat like a bean patty, if that's the direction that you go, where that is, they have the, I call it faux chicken, but it's a vegetarian chicken that you can also use. And but to me, because it's a vegetarian chicken, then that's the protein. Now, what are you going to have with it? So you have to start thinking about, as you're developing your grocery list, what type of vegetable do I want to have with it? And what I have found that's changed for me, usually I always had a protein, two vegetables, and some type of bread. And it might be just a regular slice of white bread I cut in half. Everybody got a half piece of bread. It could be some cornbread. And if it's soup, it could be crackers, or it could be that you had um, carrots and celery. It could be something that you cut that's fresh tomatoes, fresh onions, fresh cucumbers. It doesn't have to be a full lettucey, blossoming salad. They're pretty, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be something even more simple. Now, so your meal plan really is your guide. You start with your master list, develop your weekly guide as to what you might do for the week. And certainly, let me see if I can whip to mine pretty quick, because I have my weekly guide. Well, that's the grocery. Hold on one second. I must have taken it out. Where? Oh. Okay. So here, dun, dun, dun. Let me change our screen. Now we're able to see, this was back in August, and you can see that I had my grocery list is behind it, but in the front over here, I have each day, and I had an idea as to what I was going to prepare those days. Now, as it turned out, I did actually use each of these. And the reason for that was because I had already laid out what I needed. And so everything was right there where I could add things in, like in the Mexican takeout. I pulled some of the beef from the pot roast and used the beef in some burritos that was, the beef was left over. So I was able to pull some of the leftovers, and they came out new. They looked new anyway in a different dish. And so, it's fun to be able to figure out, let's see, okay, I baked a chicken. Now, and what can we do with the chicken this week? And I may freeze a portion of the cooked chicken and prepare two meals during the week with the other half of that chicken. And one might be, I don't do it often, but maybe once a month, I might have fried chicken. And then later in the month, since I have the chicken out, I may actually just broil or grill the chicken. And so that gives you an opportunity. And sometimes I'll take this meal plan, work him, rework him, and he's going to show up again next month because, whoo, that one worked. That week was a good week. And so those are things to look at. I'm trying to keep up with the chat and watch what the conversation is. Oh, Tay Tay, this is wonderful. Tay Tay said that she was just sitting down to do a plan for this week. Oh, bless your heart. I am so glad because, I don't know what I would do without planning my weeks. That's a good thing. Here, Susan said that she prefers to reverse meal plan. She plans based on what's on sale. So in other words, you go out and you find the things that are in season are things that need to be used up. And then she puts together her plan. Uh-huh. And she said when she first started as a home cook, she planned her meals and only shopped for those items she needed. Absolutely perfect, Susan. Absolutely perfect. That sounds like a great idea. And the good thing about being able to sit here at the lunch table, think of all the ideas and the methods that we have been able to pull together just in the first 20 or so minutes. Just imagine what this will do for a new homemaker. All right, now, those of you who are meal planners, and obviously most of you are, did you notice? I know two of you did. Did you notice a difference in the amount of money that you spent? Now, I can tell you my answer, but I'm not going to tell it yet. Did you notice that when you planned, you had a plan, you took your plan, you worked a list, and you took your list, you shopped your pantry, your refrigerator, and your freezer, and those things that you already had, you took off the list. And then you went to the grocery. Now, I know that sounds like a whole lot of steps, but it really happens pretty quick. And then you went to the grocery with it. Did you find you saved money? Did you save money? And of course, in the case Susan said, she shops those sales. I do too. I do too. And Ronnie said yes. And she said if she has a list and she sticks to it, I love that. And those are key words, Ronnie. And you stick to it, she'll also spend less. I'm laughing and I'm clapping because if I go to the grocery store alone, then I've got my plan, I've got my list, and I can stick to it. But if I have guests who travels to the grocery with me, sometimes I may spend more than I had actually planned because they find little things that they think they have to have as well. It's kind of like when the kids were little, you take them to the store with you. You really didn't want to, but you took them to the store because you had to. And you'd end up with one or two extra cereals that you hadn't planned on, or a little ice cream that you might not have planned on, or some kind of box something that you really hadn't planned on. And it wasn't on your list, but you got it anyway. So Carol Phillips, she says she needs to start planning, and she says she sure will cut down on expenses. She said, but she shops her sales. Shopping sales is important. And let me say this, maybe this is not happening in your area, but in our area, newspapers have become far and few between. It seems like we get fewer newspapers all the time. And I always early on had my Sunday newspaper. Even if I wasn't taking it as a subscription, I made sure I picked one up. because in the Sunday paper that they always had all the coupons, all the good things that you needed to have to be able to do your shopping for the week. And our Sunday paper doesn't look like what it used to look like. Now, every now and then, your neighborhood stores might send flyers out and they're stuck in your mailbox. And so I miss that because sometimes I don't know about the sales until I walk in the grocery store, and thank goodness they have that little basket there with their sale flyer. It's too bad that it's just out of the way, because I would go and pick it up early, and so I could really go through it, because I don't want to have to do that in the store. But they at least have their sale flyer that you can thumb through quickly, see if there's something there. And while you're thumbing, look for those specials that the manager has also put out. And so those are things, sales, manager specials, those grocery flyers. And we're in the digital world today. So like I went to Kroger online about an hour or so ago. And because of that, I was able to see all of the sales for Kroger through Wednesday. So I already know when we finish up here, I got to go to the grocery, but I already know what the sales are going to be, and made that notation on my sheet. I also have my Kroger card. Every grocery that you shop, get their card, because even we have Food Lion, and I don't know if you have a Food Lion in your area or not, but Food Lion has great sales, and it's not the largest grocer, and it's not like Publix or Wegmans or some of those humongous grocery stores. But use your flyers, use your phone, go on there. Most of them have apps that you can use. And if you know you're going to a particular store, check their app first and see what the specials are going to, especially the coupon specials are going to be. Most of the time, excuse me, most of the time, the manager specials you probably won't see until you actually walk in the door. And sometimes the managers make those specials only last 15 minutes. They'll announce a special and you have 15 minutes to make a decision. Do I want to or do I not? And get to it. And you want to get to it because usually it's something that, in some cases, it's something that that they don't have a lot of. They know that they need the space, and they want everybody to rush that spot, clear it out, and you're good to go. So we're kind of doing the manager a favor of being able to empty that spot. Now, since I can say that since COVID, what I've noticed, and this has been pretty consistent. I shop between, you see how many fingers I held up. I shop between about 5 different stores, not the same week, okay? But between 5 different stores. And I have noticed between those 5 that some things are consistent. The manager specials are typically on the end caps. The manager specials may be right at the front of the store. So as you're going into the store, they want you to see what the manager specials are. And that's a good thing, because you can sometimes now, like if it's football season's running now. So at many of the stores in the front are going to be items that you can use for your football entertaining. All the chips, lots of dips, lots of drinks, all the little accompaniments, that you might have with that are right there at the beginning of the store. Because, and especially They do that when they know that that weekend is approaching and the big game is coming. And so, that's an opportunity for you to be able to catch and get a few extra bags of chips in the pantry. Now, I like paper because I can take the paper with me, have the grocery list right there, and just sit and do it. I'm a paper girl. But I'm trying to come into the 20th century and use my phone, have my list on my phone, and check it off as I go on the phone. So that is an advantage as well. Now, another thing to think about is that we've talked about a little bit about scheduling. And as we schedule, I think it was Elizabeth who said that she's a little more rigid about what she schedules, when she schedules it, and she really sticks to it. I am pretty much the same way. Now, do I expect for everybody to be that way? Of course not, because we all think different. We plan a little differently. It may look similar, but we have to develop the habit that works for us. But what we can do is to put down, if you know you're going to be in the kitchen 5 days a week, and maybe 2 of those days are those days that you might opt to go out, or one of those days might be a day that you opt to have leftovers, or you might go over to someone else's house. Now, so you think 5 days, what you might have those 5 days. Now, when it comes to those 5 days, I commit that sometimes during that week, those 5 meals will be prepared. Now, will it necessarily be on Monday? I'm going to have this. Tuesday, I'm going to have this. Wednesday, I'm going to have this. Not necessarily, but I've got 5 meals that I have grocery shopped for. I've got everything I need. And I know that sometimes during that week, those 5 meals are going to be prepared. Now, for a young new homemaker, new cook, you may only do 3. And especially, I'm kind of getting into that time of where it's just the two of us. It's just the two of us. And so I can usually get away with 4 meals rather than the 5. And sometimes I actually schedule for 6 just in case. But for us, Sundays, we always go out. That's been a standing thing for years. That's our day out with friends, and we plan for that. Now, but the other 6 days, one night might be pizza night, and you can decide: do you want to prepare the pizza, or are you going to have the pizza out? So you can plug in, say, Friday night pizza and a movie, and the movie might be on your television. But the pizza, you can decide: do you want to prepare it, or do you want to order it from Pizza Hut or wherever your favorite pizza place is? So then that leaves you down. You've got 4 to work with. So that gives you an opportunity to be able to decide what will I work for this week, and what's going to be already in the refrigerator. So when I get up, say on Wednesday morning, I'm going to look at my list. I'm going to say, okay, I did this for Monday, I did this for Tuesday, check it off. And when you get for Wednesday, look at your meal ideas and say, okay, I've got this already in the refrigerator ready to go. So Wednesday, then you can do that. Or say, for instance, your hubby comes home and says, don't cook. We're going to go over to such and such. And so that day, even though you had planned, say, for spaghetti, but you might move that spaghetti to the following day because you weren't home to eat the spaghetti that night. So that kind of pushes it out. And so there are ways that you can work your plan. But the good thing is that you have, hold on, I'm trying to flip here. You have your list of 30 ideas. And what I do typically is that as I use it, I check it off. And if it's a real, woo, that was good, then guess what? I already have the sheet over here on the side for November. And I just plug it immediately over there. Bam, on the November meal plan because I know the family's going to want that again. And it may be, I may even run it again later on in the month. So while I checked it, I might bring it back later on in the month. But it's nice to have a plan to work from. Now, I'm, I'm observing some of the conversations that it really is funny. It's not fun. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing with you because I have some things, we just have to try to work through them. When you're planning your meals, think about health. I love fresh baked bread, but do I have fresh baked bread every day? No. I love fried chicken or fried pork chops, but do I fry them every week? No. I try to make sure that we have vegetables at every meal. It once upon a time I said we had to have two vegetables, a green vegetable and another vegetable. It could be a starch versus a green or a red or a yellow vegetable. But as inflation has come about, we might have to back off just a little bit. It may mean that we might have green beans tonight. You might have greens tomorrow. You could have spinach the next day, or you could have mashed potatoes one night. You might cut back to one, or you can even control what your plate looks like. I like a colorful plate. So, technically, you should have a protein. And for me, I like kind of mentally dividing my plate into thirds. So I have a protein, a yellow vegetable, and sometimes I have a green vegetable. Or it could be a protein, a salad, and a green vegetable. So as you're looking and thinking about your plate, you want variety because you want to make sure that you're serving a healthy meal. And occasionally we can throw in some of those things that aren't as healthy. Now, another thing to keep in mind is, and I'm big on this, I want to cross utilize my ingredients. So when I buy lemons, I try to buy them by the bag. I try to use those lemons all week, because lemons can go bad on you pretty quickly. So you want to make sure that you're using them. When I buy a bag of apples to use for cooking, I try to make sure that I think of all those fun things that I can do with apples, or I prepare them in such a way that I can put them into the freezer for another day. And so we want to be able, when we were talking about that chicken, and being able to separate that chicken. And if you're a family of two or three, and maybe the third one is a baby, then you're really thinking more family of two when it comes to meal planning, because the baby's not eating your dinner food at this point. And so for you, you can probably get 4 different meals from one chicken. So that's cross utilizing what you've purchased. You made one good purchase. I know I purchased this chicken last week. He really was. He kind of looked like a monster. He was pretty big. And I came straight home, chopped him into fourths, and put each fourth into a freezer bag. Kept one fourth out and put it in the refrigerator, but the other three are sitting in the freezer. And that's so that I can utilize them in different ways and have different meals. So, cross utilizing your meals is a good thing. Now, let's talk about the grocery list. Our grocery list, and we'll go back to that key word. Take your grocery list to the grocery and stick to it. And I'm laughing. Stick to it. That's hard. I'm not going to tell you a story. It is hard to go into the grocery store, even with your grocery list. I got mine. I'm ready to roll today. When I get off, I'm going to and you know, this is old school. This is old school. This is an old envelope that came with a bill, and I got into this habit because my mom used to do this. You know, she'd take one of her envelopes, and sometime it was an envelope that, you know, she'd just taken whatever was in there out, didn't need to put it back. Rather than throw it away, she'd flip it over, use the back, and voila, she'd write her grocery list. But there's one other thing that she did. She also put her grocery money into her envelope. So when she went with cash, put it in there, grocery in the envelope. And there are some of you who may be envelope people. There is a plan for teaching you how to budget and all those good things. They use envelopes, putting your money in your envelopes. Tay, you're absolutely right. Coupons, put the coupons in there so that you have them in hand, ready to go. And you know, if you're one of those big time couponers, I saw a lady in the store, and we were in. It wasn't a. It was, yes, it was. It was a regular grocery store. I think it was Kroger. She had a notebook where she had organized all of her coupons in there. She was doing some serious couponing. Now I have to admit, I'm not quite that serious, but I use my coupons. You know, when I'm going to save a dime, when I can save a dime. And you put all of that in there together. So when you get to and then put it in your purse. Don't walk out of the house and you don't have your money, your coupons, and your list all together in one place. Ronnie said her mother did the same thing. And you know, it wasn't a bad idea. It wasn't a bad idea. And she was an envelope lister. Well, you know, part of that, I think, was because this was probably before, you know, the push for the environment, where you didn't waste. You wanted to make sure that you used your, excuse me, you wanted to make sure that you used your paper and you had paper waste rather than throw it away. Envelopes are good tools for a lot of things. And so I tend to hold on to the ones especially that you get. I don't pay anything by mail. Everything I do online. So because of that, these little envelopes come in handy, and I've got a ton of them. So that's always good. I don't have to throw them away. But you want to make sure that you have a detailed grocery list. So this particular week, let me take this down. The week I was showing you, let's see if I can hold it and look. The week I was showing you here, underneath is the grocery list right there. So what I do is that once I know what my tentative meal plan is going to be, the order of what I think it might be, I know sometimes during the week I'm going to fix these meals, and that these are the things that I need to have preparations for. Well, then I look at what items do I need for my big salad. What items do I need? Am I going to make my pimento cheese or am I going to buy it? And if I'm going to make it, then what do I need? So then I need to go over to the grocery list and start plugging in what those things that I know I need. And then once I've done that, then I take this list over to the pantry, over to the refrigerator, over to the freezer. And if there's anything here that I do not need to purchase, then I'll go back and take those things off the list. So this is a working list. Now, of course, it looks nice because it's in my planner, but I take my planner to the grocery most of the time. So I have everything right there. Because sometimes when I'm at the grocery, now you all know this, sometimes we get to the grocery and that manufacturer's special might be on ground beef. They may be running that ground beef at 99 cents a pound. Now, I might not be preparing anything this week that needs ground beef, but you know I'm not going to leave the grocery store without getting a few pounds of that ground beef that's on sale. So, knowing that, I'll pick up the extra items. And that gives me something that I can put in my extended pantry and have it already there. And I'm looking, let's see, Tay Tay. Tay Tay says, I think now with all of this digital push to get rid of cash, maybe we spend more money. When you have cash, you tend to spend less. You're absolutely right. Everyone wants you to spend more money these days. And you know what that is. They're trying to stay in business, trying to increase their input. They're looking at it, their economics. But as home cooks and homemakers, we have to look at our economics. We want to be able to leave some money in that envelope if possible for another week. So we have to be smart. And that's what we're trying to do. You're also saying this is great. Yes, we have to be more self-disciplined these days because let's face it, our prices are going up. And as we look at the changes that are occurring, I'm trying to think of what I was watching the other night. Oh, here in South Carolina, because of first we had excess rain, then we had none. And what has happened is that there's a lot of rice produced down in South Carolina. And so the rice production has been horrible. Now, most of the time, I have always thought of rice as one of those things, honey, you could always have rice. Rice cereal, rice, just plain rice, rice with some butter, rice with a little sugar on it. You can just do all kinds of things with rice. Have a rice pudding. But if it gets to the point that our rice fields are not producing as they should, then rice is going to be one of those things that we know the price is going to go up. And because we know this has not been a good summer for rice production, we have to prepare. So when we can find a good deal on rice and your family likes rice, buy it, pick it up. Those are the things we have to think about. We have to stay aware of everything around us. As we start to see, I was looking yesterday on, I think it was 60 Minutes, was talking about the droughts that are occurring out west. And, it just, takes your breath, takes your heart, because they're serious. The lack of water is always serious. And that's something that all of us need. And so um, we need to set ourselves in such a way that should something that we normally have all the time isn't available, that we have something else we can use in place of that. So they were showing potatoes. Their potatoes, instead of being those nice Idaho potatoes that we love, those little Idaho potatoes were about this big. It's going to be hard to have a good baked potato this big. You're going to have a whole lot of them. And I'm saying that to keep a lightness, because we don't want to start to feel that depression. We don't want to feel that. We just want to think ahead, know there's the possibility that things might get a little wiggly and change a little bit, and that we have prepared for that. That's like when you set up your financial budget, you want to have some money off to the side. So should an emergency comes, you're prepared for that. Our emergency pantry, extended pantry, we're planning for that, making sure that that we're using our plan, that we know what it is when we walk into that grocery store, and that we're not going in there all willy-nilly just buying whatever, and then we get home and we don't have enough there to put together a decent meal. We have to plan. Now, the farmers in the UK, Emma's saying that it's not just here, that the farmers in the UK have been struggling with the hot weather. Oh, I bet. And we have had produce our produce is going to be more expensive, and there isn't going to be as much of it available. That is absolutely right. We're going through the same thing. I mean, the places where we knew, I know, I always look forward to certain types of tomatoes. Those tomatoes were horrible. They didn't taste good. They didn't look good. You know, if you're going to pay 3 something a pound for tomatoes, you want them to look nice and you want them to taste good. And that has not necessarily been the case. Now, let me ask you guys, what have you changed? Thinking through this time of inflation and all those things. Oh. I'll come back to you, Donna. You're absolutely right. What have you changed in the past few months related to meal planning? I'm going to say go back as far as spring. Have there been some things that you have changed in your meal planning style? Are the things, or how you go about it? Between the meal plan and the grocery, what are some things that you have had to change? Talk about that. I'm going to give you another question in just a few minutes. Tell me what you've changed. Now, for me, I had to change my style of planning because, you know, I was a stickler on having that 1 month of meals, and I shopped one time. That was it for the month. I didn't go back in the grocery. But as the state of our current affairs around us changed with inflation, I had to go back to shopping more frequently throughout the month. So for me, that's what changed. I make almost, I'm with you, Dawn. Dawn says that she makes most of her food rather than going out as much. I do too. I do too. You know, we go out on Sunday, we either go out, and sometimes we'll even go from house to house. So this Sunday might be at one person's house, next Sunday might be at the next person's house, and have a good time just as friends. Ronnie's saying that she's definitely created an extended pantry and she's making more meals and using less protein. Me too. I have cut back, girls. I'm a meat eater, but you know what? If I can get 4 to 5 meals out of one chicken, guess what? That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do. Carol says she hasn't had many fresh vegetables because of the prices and because of supplies. You are absolutely right. There have been some stores that, and in fact, there's been some stores, and I know of one in particular. I don't want to call the name, but there was one store I went in. I was so disappointed. Their fresh foods looked absolutely beautiful. And it was almost before I could get them home that they were bad. I'm not used to that. At least give me a few days with those fresh vegetables. And I did everything I was supposed to do. So, you know, Ronnie's saying that they've gotten to the point where they hardly ever eat out. And I can understand that because if you're like where we are at this point, um, they've gone up on, they've added this food tax. And when you go out, not only are you paying the cost of the food, and the cost of the food has gone up, but then you're getting less. And then they're going to add a higher food tax on top of it. Tay Tay said she's making more soups and chili to be able to stretch those meals. You are on it. Absolutely. I made 3 soups this weekend to put in the freezer and put a couple together as freezer meals. And then I can just pop them out, put them into the slow cooker. You all saw me do that on Saturday. I popped one of the soups out, put it in the slow cooker, and let that baby go for the day. Now, Emma said that their fruit and vegetables are not lasting as long as they used to, too. She can't shop for 2 weeks worth anymore. No, we can't either. And you know what? Lettuce, it's like it's disintegrating the minute you leave the grocery store. And instead of being that nice green lettuce that we like for our salads, by the time you get it home and ready to use it, it has already started to turn brown. And so that's a little scary. Um, Susan says she's using more items from her extended pantry and only purchasing meats on sale. Cooking and making more staples instead of purchasing. Absolutely. You know, I have to be careful with that because I don't want to go down to bare minimum in my freezer or in the pantry. So I just give myself a time period. I keep that list of the things I'm going to use and I use what I can. So then I replenish and it goes on the grocery list. When I remember, always try to make sure that you have at least 2. So like if I'm buying flour, I'm going to buy 2 bags of flour. One bag I'm going to open. The other bag is on the shelf. And the next time I go to the grocery store, I'm going to pick up another one. Because should I have to go into that bag of flour, then that bag of flour is done. It's like not having any. And so we need to make sure sugar, flour, the staples. If you know you're a cereal person, oatmeal is going up. So if you like oatmeal and you like your oatmeal cookies at Christmas and all those are oatmeal cakes or breads or whatever it may be, get oatmeal and get as much as you can today because tomorrow that price could be higher. Oh, good. Ronnie said that she said she's freezing the leftover food instead of letting it go bad. Absolutely, Ronnie. I went to the Dollar Tree and bought these little containers that it's just enough, just large enough for like, I take the leftovers and I put them together like as TV dinners. Remember those TV dinners? Put them together like TV dinners. So I have a TV dinner, 2 TV dinners of the leftovers. label it, put it in the freezer. So when I want to bring it out, I can bring the TV dinners out, or we can pick and choose which one we want. But we've got food in the freezer and it's ready to go, and we're not wasting any. Good idea, Ronnie. That's excellent. Dawn says she agrees with what Ronnie's saying. She has created that extended pantry, and definitely we're using less meat. Um, Emma, you are right. Two is one, and one is none. Absolutely, absolutely. So when you have two, it's the same as having one. And when you only have one of whatever it is, that's the same as not having it at all. None. So make sure that you have multiples if you can. Um, even something as simple as the little cans of black pepper, pick up more than one. If you get a good sale, pick up, if you can afford it, get more than one. So then that way you have it and it's ready to go. Soups, I do that. I make soups, but I also, if I can find canned soups on sale, I will do that. Ronnie said that me too, Susan. She's been dehydrating her parsley and cilantro, basil, her herbs. And in the past, she said they would go bad. And she said, but she's not doing that anymore. I'm with you. I'm with you. No more. In fact, most of the time when I buy it to dehydrate it. And then that way I know I don't have a dehydrator, but I either use the oven or I use the idea of using the brown paper bag and hanging the herb inside and letting it air dry. And, then you have herbs at your convenience and later in the season. Now, one more thing. Some of us have been a little bit anxious when it comes to meal planning. And certainly, as we meal plan, I would hope that you are starting to take a breath of where it's not difficult to do. It's just, it becomes a part of you. And what I think is that if you keep your meal plan somewhere where it's visible and you keep your grocery list visible, I keep mine close to the refrigerator or on the refrigerator. That way I can just walk over. If I see that this is running low, I can walk over and put it on the grocery list. If I have my meal plan, I have a couple of extra pages in there, and I'll see what we've done, say, with the chicken for today. And if I have enough chicken left, I'm thinking, chicken noodle soup. I'll bag it with intentions of being ready for chicken noodle soup for the following week. Put that for Monday of the next week because I need to use that up quickly. And so that's how we're able to work our meal plan. Now, coming up this week, you will see the full layout of this week's 30 days a meal. I'll take you through the planner, take you through the list, take you through what has been done, and I hope I will have been able to edit the grocery shop because sometimes that's the hardest part, getting everything edited. But the plan is to be able to show you the haul, show you the list, show you the plan, and work it from there. And we're doing this together, ladies and gentlemen. We are in it together because that's how we survive. And we survive more easily. And, all of us are listening to each other, getting ideas from each other. And I see I caught that. Ronnie, I'm not sure if somebody else said that, but you were talking about butter. I'm sorry, guys, I got off track. I saw butter. Butter is ungodly. Oh my gosh. It has really gone through the roof price wise. And so when I went to the grocery, I bit the bullet, bought a ton, put it in the freezer because, those are things we use for our holidays. And I'm thinking, now I'm hoping this won't be the case, but I just have a feeling, we're planning ahead that by the time we get ready to actually prepare our Thanksgiving meal, some of these things are going to be just, we think it's through the roof today, but it's really going to be through the roof by the next month. So if you use butter, you need oils, certain oils, get them now. Get them now. Those vegetables, those fresh vegetables that you can prep, cook, and put in your freezer, get them now. Green beans, greens. Now, I actually cube my potatoes and put them in the freezer. That's not the best way you want them, but if you're going to throw it in a soup, they're fine. And so I do that. I cube them, put them in a freezer bag, and they're in the freezer ready to go. Onions, green peppers, all of those things we can prepare in advance and have them in our freezer ready to use so that when these prices get crazy, we will be prepared. So, one plan for our 1 month is our guide. It's our guide, our suggestions for the month. And we're going to make sure that we have that master list of our meals that we'd like to prepare. And that helps us to make sure that our extended pantry, our refrigerator, and our freezers are well stocked. This has been an amazing lunchtime. And I know I've kept some of you way too long because for some of you, I know you got to go back to work, but and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I miss working, to be honest with you, but we are going to help each other. That's what we're doing. Heavy cream. I see a couple of things. As soon as we see turkeys, get on it. As soon as you see, for a while it was hard finding whole chickens. When you see them, get them. Creams and buttermilk. Buttermilk was missing on the shelves for a while. I freeze mine. So get a couple of containers of buttermilk, especially if you'd like to make biscuits and all those good things. And I want to see you right here at the lunch table. Can't wait until next Monday because we have certainly had a wonderful conversation today. And I hope that some of the things that we have said have been beneficial to you. I love all of you, new subscribers, family who's been right here, and those of you who are just dropping in. I love it. I love it. Come back to the lunch table because we're always trying to find how we can help each other, how we can contribute both spiritually, health wise, food, whatever the direction is. Because when we sit at our tables, all of those conversations are going to go on. So let's have a pleasant time at our lunch table. God bless all of you. All of you. Be safe this week. I pray that none of you are in the path of some of these weather systems that are coming through. Certainly keep our friends in prayer because there's a lot going on across the world. So God bless you. Have a great afternoon. Mwah.